Hello everyone, Fenris here, and today we'll be talking about Tides of Torment. This is my review for the DLC. I played all of the Legendary Lords, and I will be going through what I like in the DLC, what I don't like in the DLC, and just overall impressions. In this video, I won't be talking about the specific mechanics, explaining them, and so on, because I did a dedicated video for every faction, so in this video expect my opinion. And this is just, as I said, my opinion, nothing more, and this is not like the guide to the DLC, but let's just not linger, let's just hop into the review.
Has devotion led?
Several things that we need to talk. First is that DLC was delayed, like a lot, yes? Last DLC was released last year, around the same time, so we had like a 1 year gap between the DLC, which is bad, let's face it. That's not good at all. But we finally have the DLC, and it has a 3 Legendary Lords, the Hala, Sail, and Eyeless for Slaanesh, Norsca, and Eyeless accordingly. We also had a 3 DLC, which is Mask of Slaanesh, so a 3 Legendary Lord for Slaanesh, and we also had a lot of free faction reworks with 7.0 patch, which is important. When I will be ranking the DLC, I will separate those two things, yes? I will be talking about the content from the DLC, not including the reworks of the factions that you can get.
Yet Sail the Faithless walks a path of his own making.
Let's start with, I think, the most anticipated, the one that people were waiting the most, Norsca. So Norsca with Sail the Faithless is a new Legendary Lord that goes with Norsca. My overall impressions from the get-go, I think his campaign was quite boring, and I will go why in a minute, because but overall the problem with Sail I have is that his campaign does not add much to the Norsca as a faction itself. Why? Because I will be talking about the patch 7.0, so the 3 additions to Norsca with him, but I think like him as a campaign itself really does not add much to the campaign, and this was the campaign that bored me the fastest. Yes, he has those different shrines of the Chaos Gods, then the other Norscans, he has his machinations that he can use, and then the eye opens with the mechanics, but I'm not going into the detail. But besides that, he feels like a simplified version of a Norsca as a faction, and I had a very fast playthrough with Wulfric and Frog, and being honest, I had way more fun with them because they can dedicate to the different gods. Yes, they don't have these machinations of his mechanic, but overall he feels so one-directional and plain as a character. And also on the battlefield he has this Chaos Spawn summon that is just a vortex ability. It does not do much as a thing, so I would not rank Sail highly in this DLC. And overall, in terms of the DLC content, mechanically, as I was saying, nothing interesting. This Chaos Sorcerer theme that he just go undivided is uninteresting, especially if you compare it to the basic vanilla Norsca. Let's talk about his units. This may be a bit better. So we have several new units for the Norscans, and first of all, let's talk about those that I don't like, and then about those units that I like. I talked the same in my impressions video, and Sail did not change much from my impressions video. I would say that maybe the ranking of him as a campaign just went a bit lower from my first impressions. Is that in terms of units, I think many of the units are quite useless for the Norsca. For example, the Bearman. I don't understand the idea of this unit. Why have a tier between the Marauders and the champions? There was not real need for that. The Berserkers were for that. Also, the Bearmen are getting so many buffs in the campaign that you really don't use champions, because in vanilla they are not performing much better than the Bearmen, so there's no reason to take the champions again. So Bearmen are just lower tier units that is just better, which is again, weird for me. The unit that I really like was the Kurgan Horseman. This is a very good addition to the unit because this is a cavalry unit that is not a chariot, and this is a unit that is not a hybrid, so something that Norsca was lacking. So in terms of like a roster overall, I would say, yeah, this is a very good addition. Other units, we have the Dreadmaw, very interesting unit, a unit that doesn't move on itself. You need to use an ability to move, and looks very cool. Has this teleportation thing that on itself is something very unique in a game. Overall, in terms of performance, it's like a very gimmick unit. It's like a stationary tower, I would say. You can shoot it with it, but it's quite decent also in melee. It's a very interesting idea of a unit. Not that I'm going to use it quite often, because if you want to have an army that needs to move fast and around, this is like an okay thing, let's call it. I don't. Maybe it's like using is a bit junky, I would say. It's like more for the future of Total War, future games, than this one. So it's like more a proof of concept. But I get why they did that. We also have a Chimera. Chimera as a unit looks amazing, but it is sadly just a better Manticore. There is really no reason to use Manticore when you have this one. So, and on the other side, you have a Manticore, but you can also have a Chaos Frost Dragon in a few turns after. So why use the Manticore, the Chimera, if you get the Chaos Dragon? I don't know. Again, quite odd choice. Maybe some differentiation between those two units would be in place. Besides that, there are really no reason to get one get Chimera at all when you get a Chaos Frost Dragon soonish after. The last unit on my list is the Cursed Ettin, and this is a unit that I really like. I used it because this is just way better giant. It's like a giant, but it has spells, interesting ability of Dura personality, so his stats change depending how much health he has. And overall, this is way more interesting unit. I like it. I actually like it, but again, it replaces normal giants. There's really no reason to use normal giants at all. Even the Ettins have a bit lesser stats, but overall, it's just a better unit in every other aspect. For the Norsca, we also got the new generic Lord, which is Great Shaman Sorcerer, and it's an okay. I expected something more like a Thymir or a Norsca Champion, or maybe like a guy that can change into the, Forsaken, mutate into Spawn, or something like that. It's an okay addition. As a Lord, I think there could be way more interesting choices here. We also have a Femur Noble, and this is a tanky hero, which actually works, and I like it. Previously, really, Femur Belfind was quite tanky, but not that much, of course. Skin Wolf Werfkin, more about regeneration, but again, Femur Noble, a very good addition. We also have the new legendary hero Beork Beardstruck, and he's actually good. He's interesting because not only mechanically he has some nice abilities, but also he's a werebear, so very cool unit, something unique and then just a normal hero that looks different. So overall, my impressions about an opinion about the Norsca sadly went a bit down from my first impressions. I have to say that the sale as a campaign was the most boring for me, and I'm for sure never going to back to Sale as playing him again. I would rather go and play Frog, but about that I will be talking when we go to patch 7.0 additions for the faction. So overall, do I recommend selling the Faithless? I do not recommend him to buying him as a DLC. None of his units and additions that he's giving to the faction is interesting enough to actually be worth it, in my opinion.
Her whirling madness has driven her across the known world.
Slaanesh is next. The Hela, 6-handed crazy snake lady ex-elf that is having actually interesting mechanics is the first. Way more interesting than Sail. Her mechanics is that whole her settlement system is entirely different than the normal Slaanesh faction. She has this new resources that she needs to spend for these new settlement types that are in the major settlements in the provinces, and you can do those only from time to time. Her faction is very fast. She has some blessings that she can give herself to get some crazy levels very fast. Mechanically, if you compare her to the different factions of Slaanesh, so Enkari and Mask, she's very, very unique. Even like in terms of the sub-factions in the whole game, she's one of the most unique campaigns. Maybe something similar to what Changeling is to the Zinj, but she's actually working as a faction. And I have to say that I really enjoyed her campaign. She's extremely powerful in all regards of her campaign. What I sadly did not like that she is way too powerful. You can finish her campaign taking all of the Eastern world really in like 30-40 turns. She's so powerful, so fast, and because of that, you won't even be able to use most of her mechanics. I had two major settlements, so the pleasure palaces in 40 turns, so this is not much, and I was really grinding to get the second one as fast as possible, but in the meantime, the Hala was going from settlement to settlement to settlement and just destroying everything and taking them to the trial camps and so on, so I can get the resource. So overall, as a campaign-wise, I think the Hala is very interesting. Also, she as a lord, I like her because she's very powerful, she's very fast, something entirely different if you compare her to Enkari and different legendary lords of this DLC. In terms of the units, the situation here is way better than the Norsca, in my opinion. We got several new units that are interesting and actually giving something to the faction. So we got a Slangors, of course, because we got Pestigors, Corngors, and so on. We got the Slangors here, and Slangors are working way better than the unit that I mentioned in the previous factions, and it's a nice change, so you don't need to use the Devoted Marauders all the time or the Demonites, and they have a Vanguard. They are quite fast. They are more like a glass cannon, but still, I think this is a very interesting unit, and I liked it. I used it in my campaign. The unit that I did not use much is the Devotees of Slaanesh. And we got the two units here. One is just a dual-wield Dark Elves guys, and the second one is the Slaanesh devotees with crossbows. The crossbow ones I really used at the beginning only when I had them in my starting army, and then I just disbanded them very fast. I understand the need of having such a missile unit, especially if you compare it to the vampire cones that doesn't have a missile units, but they have many counters for flying units because they have the Vargaze, they have the bats, they have the terror gaze and other units. But Slaanesh doesn't have it that much, and I understand they added this unit too, so we can counter enemy missile flying units, and it's helpful during the sieges. But they also added the Praeton, which is working flawlessly as such a unit, because Praeton is like a better Manticore. Again, it's a similar idea with the Chimera, but I think the Praeton is better because he has a cool ability that increases melee damage reflection. So actually sending Praeton in the middle of enemy troops is helpful because they will do damage to themselves. So overall, I would say that the Devotees of Slaanesh are like a non-interesting unit, maybe very early game, but besides that, I never used them past that, and I will not use them in my future campaigns. Other units that I like, I just said about the Praeton. It's an interesting unit, very cool, very maybe not needed for the roster, but really adds something new to the roster. Other units that we have are the Champions of Slaanesh and the Pleasure Seekers. And Champions of Slaanesh are like melee male versions of the Hala, and the Pleasure Seekers are like demonettes on the Serpents of Slaanesh. And both of the units very thematic for Slaanesh. They are powerful, hard-hitting glass cannon units. that I really like. I use them a lot. I like how fast they are, that they can regenerate health, and they are very, 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 very helpful overall as an addition to the roster. In terms of the lords, we got a new lord. It's a Chaos Sorcerer Lord of Slaanesh. Just a no-brainer. It's just a melee hybrid lord with a Lord of Slaanesh, so nothing really interesting. Exalted Hero of Slaanesh. This one is okay, I would say. It's working like an Exalted Hero. Nothing really crazy about him, but he is working. He's working as a character. He looks interesting. Like he's a bit goofy, but I like that. I was using it in my campaigns. We also have a Druki Anointed, and this is like linking with the devotees of Slaanesh. And this is like an okay hero. She's a hybrid and works in a way that she got some spells that are bound spells, so abilities more both from lore of Slaanesh, but also lore of the Dark Elves, and it's actually working as a hero. I think it's very fitting to have it, and overall I like this addition, and I use her in most of my armies. My overall opinion about the Dehala campaign is very positive. I have to say that she's actually something different to play, not like Sail, and playing her feels different. She is very unique in her mechanic. She's very powerful in vanilla, so you won't be able to see everything that she has to offer because you will finish your campaign very fast or get bored very fast. That's how powerful she is. But overall, I like her. I think that she's a good addition, and I would recommend this DLC, especially if you like Slaanesh. So if you like Slaanesh, yes, the Dehala is for you, and her 6 hands will do you good.
He'll leave them ruined in his wake.
Eyeless, the Sea Lord of High Elves. This is the last part of the DLC of Tides of Torment, and he's for the High Elves. His campaign mechanics, in my first impressions, I was saying that he's very convoluted, very confusing to play, because he has like 6 different resources, and I will be standing with that opinion after playing more of him, but I will have to say that he really feels like a Chaos Dwarf, meaning that he can be very convoluted, confusing at the beginning, but more you play, he can really grow on you. And from those 3 campaigns, Aisling the Sea Lord was the most enjoyable for me. I think this is the best campaign, most interesting, and also the most balanced. Yes, this campaign seems quite balanced, because his dragon ship, so this horde mechanics that he has for his special lords and himself, is very slow. You cannot finish this ship fast, but when you finally have the resources to upgrade his ship, it is very rewarding. And it's great that CA decided to slow the pace with this specific legendary lord. I think that should be the same way with the Hala and Sail, but they decided just to do it. Aisling, that the pacing of Aisling is very good to play. You will need at least 100 turns to have his ship like fully done, which is great, which is very rewarding. His other mechanics of talking with all the High Elves legendary lords is also cool, because you can take the consoles, you can take the effects from them, you can give them settlements. Mechanically, this is like a very good working horde faction that I would love, for example, to Nakai work like that, so that he gives the settlements to other lizardmen. This is a very good campaign, and I cannot praise it enough how enjoyable this whole experience was in terms of the campaign. So moving to units, this is a bit mixed bag. If I would say, like, the Norsca, most of the units were useless. Slaanesh, I like most of the units. Here is like a 50-50. We have some units that are basic, like ship company, that if you don't play an Aisling, this unit is totally useless. They added a special technology just to buff those units, the ship's company, and without those technology, this unit will be totally useless, because they are weaker than the High Elven Rangers, they are weaker than the Spearmen, and even weaker than the Archers. They really have no use in the normal campaigns, and I I think this unit should not be here. You have those upgrades for them in the campaign for Acelin in the special technologies, but I still didn't use them. I still didn't found the need to use them. I think the Spearmen are just better in every shape, way or form. Other units that we had is the Sea Elementals and Oceanids, and they are okay unit. I would say I like them more than Mereworm, because the Mereworm is meant to be like this Dread Saurian level of a unit for high elves. I think this unit, in terms of a lore, was needed because it was in the Vampire Coast DLC shown. This is, in terms of lore, this is also a high elves unit, but I really did not found the need to use this unit instead of a Moon Dragon or a Star Dragon. Especially those units are way more mobile, way more powerful. Just, it's an okay unit, but I don't feel that Mereworm is interesting enough. On the other way, the Oceanids and the Sea Elemental are actually interesting units to use. They are also lower tier, so something that High Elves did not have, like the ground monsters, so not flying ones that can withstand something in melee and has a very powerful debuffs to the enemies. So overall, our Oceanids and the Sea Elemental, I like those units. As for the last unit, we have the Lothran Skycutter, and Lothran Skycutter, oh my, great unit on the paper, probably very good in PvP multiplayer, but in campaign, very junky, very underperforming, and just plainly bad. I would say the Skycutter, I think it was a bad unit overall. I said that in my impressions video. I tried to play along with them more, and no, I would say this is sadly one of the worst units in terms of a performance, because in terms of how it looks lore wise, it's great. It's amazing, especially that Chaos Robbie did them years ago, and they still look good. The Chaos Robbie version, but also vanilla version is even better looking, but I don't know, it's very underperforming for me, and I never found a good use for them, both in melee or range when trying to shoot enemies. This unit really needs like a balance pass and a big buff. We also have a new Lord. That's what was the name? Seahelm. Seahelm Lord. It's an okay guy. He's very fitting for Acelin, but mechanically to the High Elves that already has a lot of lords does not add much. We also have a new lore in terms of the Mist Mage. This lore is okay. It's like a very based on debuffs, not that much dealing damage. They have only the one spell. I think this is Matlan Spite that does damage really. Besides that, they are more about debuffs and buffing your own units, which is, again, fine. I like it. It's an interesting lore fitting the Acelin. It won't change how you play High Elves, but as a new lore addition, I think this is very fitting. And the last legendary lord that they added was Karadrian. So he's like a very powerful halberd guy, part of the Phoenix Guard. And overall, again, this is a legendary hero. Nothing to complain about those. I think this is a good addition, especially if someone likes legendary heroes. I really forgot that I got him in my campaign with Acelin after like 50 turns. So I was like, oh, okay, he's standing somewhere. I need to put him into the army. But overall, again, this is a good addition. I like him. Nothing groundbreaking, but that is really it. And if I would recommend this, yes, I recommend Acelin as a campaign, because not only as a campaign, but also buying as a DLC as a whole. He's very unique to play, very similar idea like with the Hala. So he's like in faction of High Elves, but does not play High Elves at all, which is interesting, great, worth the pricing for having something different than the normal High Elves and just playing Acelin. It is time to talk about patch 7.0 and the free additions that it is giving to the whole game. We have the reworks of Slaanesh, Norsca and High Elves. When ranking the DLC, I really want to avoid talking about those because you're not paying for them. You're just getting them. Your other legendary lords from different DLCs or the base game already has those things. So we cannot really rank the DLC by thinking about it, things that are free additions. So let's start from Norsca again. Additions to Norsca were very, very big. Norsca received a total revamp of all of its mechanics. Not much new stuff were added, like the new mechanically. The biggest thing mechanically is the spoils, that you have those resources that you get from several activity, but also taking the settlements, and then you need to get this army to the settlement of yours. This mechanic on paper looks very good, interesting, but I have to say that longer I played Norsca, it was more and more annoying to get this army back and then pass the turn and move. I felt like a babysitter in a way, and it was uninteresting for me, and I didn't like this mechanic in the long run. Besides that, everything new added to the Norsca is fantastic. Better monster hunt, way better technologies, very good additions to the buildings, how they have different branching upgrades so you can spend the spoils. Besides that, we have a lot of changes to the gods bar on top. You have a better control over it. You have the shrines, so are those shrine settlements. Those things are really good. In terms of the Wulfric and Frog, Wulfric is now able to teleport through the settlements that are having ports, so are near water, which is, again, very good addition, but the frog additions are just way better because with the special resources he can get a wag army legs with trolls, and he are getting those other trolls like the stone trolls and so on for his faction. So I would say that frog overall the biggest winner here, and problem with Wulfric is that there's really no reason to play him because you can play as Frog, and when you confederate Wulfric, you'll just getting his mechanic of teleporting to the ports. So why play him at all? And linking to what I was saying about sale, there's really no reason to buy this DLC, the Norsca DLC, because the free addition 7.0 make Wulfric and Frog campaign were more enjoyable and more interesting than the sale. So I would say the free addition part of the Norsca are just way better than the paid content. So I would highly recommend playing Frog and Wulfric, and when you're not playing sale, you're really not losing much. About the Slaanesh. Slaanesh did not receive much. It's like a shorter end of the stick, really. We got the changes to the technology, but the changes to technology are really like, they're just new tab of the technology. The first tab is more or less the same, not changed that much. We don't have any big changes to the seduction mechanic. It's still rather problematic for me, that is spending gold that you can get the other units. I think that should be additional resource and not spending gold. And Kari received the ability to use the seduction on enemy lords, and you can take them on your side, which is okay, interesting as a mechanic, but it's like very no-brainer and you forget about it. Besides that, Slaanesh didn't receive that much of a changes. It's nowhere compared to the Nurgle or even Khorne changes that they had in their DLCs and the rework. It's way more than Zinj, don't get me wrong, but I still think that, yeah, Slaanesh really needed something better in terms of the seduction. Manifestation could get a bit more work. They sadly were not touched. Some small changes to the cult, but nothing interesting. What is more interesting in terms of the free content for Slaanesh, we have the Mask of Slaanesh. This is a new legendary lord that having those momentum mechanic from Khorne, but is way better because you have different dances. You can change them. You can give bonuses to them. It's different for every army. So overall, Mask does everything better than Enkari is doing, and it's just more fun. So this free addition is similar to what Arbol was in the Omens of Destruction, which, if you don't remember, Arbol was the best addition in the whole DLC. I would recommend not buying the Omens of Destruction. I would just recommend playing Arbal, because he was the best addition of the last DLC. With the Mask of Slaanesh, it's similar to Slaanesh itself, but the new additions are not changing that much in terms of how you play Slaanesh. So if you really want to play Slaanesh, if you like this faction, play Mask or the Hala. There's nothing to get back to the for the Enkari. But overall, I expected more for Slaanesh as a faction, that he will get just more additions, because the faction is still lacking for me. Okay, so the last new content that was added free was for the High Elves, and we don't get any new Legendary Lord because there's a lot still, but we got some changes to overall stuff for the High Elves. We got a new technology tree in the tabs, and again, I don't think that those additions are really groundbreaking. I always liked the High Elves technology tree because it was very free in terms of what you are doing. There were little tabs for the units, economical, trading stuff, and those things were working. They just expanded it, added new technologies. It just looks better, but it doesn't change much how you play the faction. The thing that was changed are the Phoenix Court. So you are able to actually have this mechanic of influencing how the politics of High Elves are working. Of course, it's nowhere near like Free Kingdoms politics, diplomacy, but it's a better feeling of how the faction itself is working in a way that you have like a direct influence on who will be on what seat. If it will be like a Northern Wolf one or the Southern, and so on and so on. I like those additions. This mechanic sadly is a very easy to miss and forget. Playing Aisling campaign, I catch myself like not doing anything in this court thing, and then after 30 turns I checked, it's like a Phoenix Court was maxed, and I could like put all my lords in the seats because this is like a very no-brainer mechanic. You just don't need to tend to it. If you tend to it, you're getting a nice bonuses, but you don't need to. But the bigger changes are going to Tyrion and Teclis. Those are really, really huge. We have the exact mechanics here as Calfrance had and the Geld. So for the Geld, for Teclis, we have a different schools that can give you army abilities or permanent bonuses or items. With Tyrion, we have like very expanded Empire Machinations, it was, I think, for Calfrance, and it's like you can replenish garrisons and do other cool stuff. And this, again, both of those guys are very powerful and giving a lot of cool additions. And I will highly recommend you to go and play back those two guys. I don't think I would recommend playing other Legendary Lords if you already played them, like the Alariel, or the Batman, how it's called, I don't remember again, or the Shadow King, but Tyrion and Teclis actually received a lot of stuff, and even if you forget about the additions for the High Elves, which are quite forgettable, being honest, they are not as plain as the Slaanesh, but they are quite forgettable if you're playing, but the new additions, the new mechanics for Tyrion and Teclis are very, very good, and I highly recommend those changes that they did in this free update 7.0. But wait, there are some changes that are not in 7.0 and really should be. In my High Elves video, impressions video, I was talking about the sieges, and god damn it, the sieges are still terrible in this game, and I really don't understand why 6 months after the Proving Grounds, none of the additions from it were added to the game. Even like the removal of the ladders would help here. I understand that the pathfinding is still quite terrible, even in the Proving Grounds was, but god damn it, again, for the love of Asur, why none of this was added? And I'm still avoiding any possible sieges in this game, and I hope they will make an update before the End Times DLC or something that improves those sieges, because I will repeat myself. This is terrible that none of the additions from this Proving Ground were added to this DLC free update. Okay, it is time to make some verdicts and summary of everything that we spoke about. Let's go with the DLC stuff first. I do not recommend Norsca DLC. I think it's uninteresting, rather mixed roster, sale, very one-dimensional campaign that I will forget and will never get back to. Slaanesh, contrary, the Hela is interesting, she's cool, she's way too powerful, and her units, in most cases, besides the devotees of Slaanesh, are helpful, interesting additions to the roster, and I like them. So I highly recommend this DLC. But my highest recommendation goes to Sea Lord Eyeless. Very complex, very interesting, and very well balanced campaign overall, with some nitpicks of the units that I do not like or they are just not working, but the campaign really shines for me and I like it, so I highly recommend this DLC part of the Tides of Torment if you want to buy it in a part. Patch 7.0 I rank as very good overall in terms of the new improvements to those factions. Sadly, this did not add much to the game itself in terms of the balance, lore changes. There are some just visuals for the Lore of Heavens, but overall, I would say that this patch, for what is meant to do, especially for Norsca, it's fantastic. These 3 additions for Norsca are fantastic. The High Elves are okay one, and the Slaanesh ones are rather like meh, okay. The faction would survive without those additions really, and not much change in terms of how you play it. So my biggest summary is Tides of Torment is a very solid but also uneven experience in terms of like a DLC itself. Yes, if you like those specific factions that I spoke about, buy them. As a whole pack, I don't know. I would say that this is for sure way better than Omens of Destruction. That was very mid everywhere. Every Legendary Lord was just okay one time. I don't remember even those campaigns right now. It is also better than Shadows of Change, that I think it's like a Frankenstein of a DLC. And it's very close to the Thrones of Decay. It's not as good as Thrones of Decay, because I would say that the Thrones of Decay had better units. But this DLC has an amazing campaign mechanics, especially for the Hera and Eyeless, and I think those additions are just really worth your time, money, and you will be having a lot of fun. As a last note, in terms of the modding, because I'm already modding, we don't have much new things that we can use. Yes, there are some parts that we will probably be using for teleportation. Those things are still in development, so I will be informing you about that. But overall, I have to say that the DLC is very clean in terms of the tables. Usually, when the DLC is being released, we have some typos in terms of the naming tables. Some abilities have a different naming. There are some bugs that are very noticeable from the beginning. No, this DLC is very polished from the inside, from coding. So right now, as I'm modding SFO, fixing the mod, it's very pleasant to do it. It's everything is just feels so compact. Let's call it. It's like, okay, I see this is DLC. This is not a new addition, so I can add it. I can start working on it. It was not the same thing with the Omens and Destruction, and not even with the Shadows of Change, which was total Frankenstein of a DLC in terms not only content but what was inside. So again, I think this is very good for a modding perspective. The fact that everything is so polished, and I was surprised because I didn't see this polish, I think, since the Warriors of Chaos DLC for Warhammer 3. Yeah, Champions of Chaos was it was the last DLC that was so polished from the inside, from a table perspective, scripts and things like that. That was a long video. Thank you all for watching. Remember to like the video, leave the comment. I'm really hoping to hear some of your opinions also about the DLC. And SFO is being done slowly, but it's being done, working, but the pace is way faster than I expected, being honest. But I'm not giving any dates. But besides that, you can always support the team and me on SFO Patreon. This is the best way to support our free work that you are getting to your beloved game of Total War Warhammer 3. Okay, thank you everyone for watching. I was Venris, and I'm out. See ya!